At the beginning of the year, I did say 2025 was going to be a lot. It feels like it's been, 10 years in one in my experience and what I've noticed for a lot of my clients and people that I've seen online, that kind of thing. There's a lot of change going on. But the plot line that we're going to talk about today is Uranus moving into Gemini. Over the past 7 years, Uranus, the planet of change, the awakener, has been in Taurus. It has been moving its way through one of the most fixed signs of the zodiac, destabilizing, shaking things up in the sign of Taurus, which happens to be my rising sign, my first house. And I know this energy well now. We've danced together for 7 years, and it has been the most intense 7 years of my life that I can remember. I believe that it has shaped me into a better person. I believe that Uranus transits do offer us a lot of medicine that we need, and especially for fixed energy, because fixed energy, especially fixed earth energy, this is Taurus we're talking about here, fixed earth needs some shaking up sometimes because it's hard for us to make big changes. We feel uncomfortable with big change, or it takes us a long time to make some important changes. And Uranus coming through my first house certainly sped up the timeline on a lot of change for me. And I want to reflect on what this might mean for Geminis now, Gemini rising signs in particular. Now, I have a lot of friends and colleagues and clients with Gemini rising. In fact, it's probably, when I think about the people in my life, one of the most common rising signs that I experience, from in my circle. And what I love about Gemini energy, and this is particularly Gemini rising energy, is its adaptability. It is, unlike Taurus, very comfortable with change. It is a more kind of exciting energy. There's a curiosity to it. There's a fluidity to Gemini people. They're able to be in different situations, adapting to different people, communicating in very adept ways. They're really powerful communicators, and that is the energy of Gemini. Remember that it is an air sign, a mutable air sign. So the most adaptable of the air signs, and air sign energy is already adaptable. It's already moving and changing, unlike fixed earth energy, right? So Gemini energy, it has this signature of connection, of being able to connect in all different spaces, in all different communities, in all different facets of life. And a lot of the people that I know with this rising sign work in communication. They might be former journalists or current journalists, or maybe they're just like people with a really active social life, and they're able to bring people together and communicate things, and they want to share ideas. They want to be in the sharing space. And that's a beautiful thing. And when Uranus comes along now, I want you to think about what that could mean for a sign that is already quite comfortable with change, quite comfortable with adaptation and, going with the flow, so to speak. It could actually mean that you become more discerning about who you want to spend time with. It could actually mean that you want to change something about that connectivity that makes you so approachable and so easygoing. Gemini energy is that friend to all kind of vibe. And that's epic. I love that. But sometimes that gets tiring. It gets tiring to be everyone's friend, to be everybody's go-to person for all of the things, which is probably who you are. You are probably that person. People go, hey, so-and-so, she knows what to do. She knows this person. She's well connected, and they come to you, right? Or he, if you're a man and you're listening to this podcast, although most of my audience tend to be women. So I want you to think about that. Is there something that you want to actually change about that? Could Uranus be coming to shake that part of you up? Something else Uranus could be bringing to you and your first house is a shift in the way that you see yourself or the way that you want to be seen. Now, this is a big thing about having a transit through the first house, is particularly one as significant as Uranus. And I just want to stop here and flag that the reason that this transit is so significant is because Uranus is an outer planet. It takes 84 years to come back to the same place. It's an 84-year cycle. So most people will only get one hit of Uranus in their first house in their lifetime. Some people, if you're in your mid 80s, you're going to be getting it. You're going to be getting a Uranus return, which is where Uranus returns to the place it was when you were born over the next couple of years, over the next 7 years. Many of us won't live to that age. Some of us will. Maybe we'll all be living till we're 120 soon. Who knows? But the point is that this is quite a significant thing. And many of us won't get this transit at a time that we're able to work with it. So if you are listening to this and you are about to have a Uranus transit, or you've just experienced one, and you're of the age that you're able to work with this energy, you're not 5, for instance, and experiencing a Uranus transit through your first house, where you don't have any agency, you're not able to work with that energy. Many of my clients and colleagues and friends are in that age range of like the mid 30s to the 50s mark. And this is a time where we are really shifting and changing in terms of who we are and what we want for ourselves in our life and our families and our career and all of the things. And there are loads of midlife transits that happen between the ages of 35 and 50. And then again, you have another one in your late 50s, your Saturn return, your second Saturn return. But for Uranus, going through your first house, the first house of identity, the first house of personality, the first house of physical body, it may mean that there's a shakeup in how you want to be seen, in how you want to care for your physical body, in the types of things you want to be doing. And I mean physically, like maybe you want to change the way that you exercise, or you want to focus more on building your body in some way. And that's a departure from what you've traditionally done. Maybe there's a change in how you want to appear. Maybe you want to, completely change your hairstyle or the way that you dress, or something is really shifting for you when it comes to your personal brand. And I mean that from a business perspective, but also from a very personal perspective. Maybe also there's something that's changing when it comes to the way that you see the world. Maybe there's something here that needs to shift. Maybe there's a pattern that you've taken on that really needs to change. Maybe there's a belief that you've taken on that really needs to change about yourself. That really needs to change. When I reflect on my Uranus transit, and keeping in mind that I am a Taurus, my Taurus rising, and again, this is fixed earth. So having Uranus through your first house as a fixed earth sign is a lot more intense than for a mutable air sign. But what can happen, and what happened to me, was that I had this sudden realization. And if you know my story, you know this. I had this sudden realization that I didn't really know who I was, that I didn't really understand myself. And the past 7 years has been such an excavation and a reclamation of who I am and what I want and how I want to be seen and how I see myself. So this is something that's really exciting about a Uranus transit. In that 7 years, I have not only got divorced, and in that divorce, I just want to say that it wasn't just about divorce, really. It was about realizing that the life that I was living was not authentic to me, that I was not being who I really came here to be. And it was a shock because I wasn't expecting to get divorced. I wasn't expecting for my marriage to end, but it was the best thing that could have happened because and that was like this Uranus situation of like, oh, wow, that's happening now. I wasn't expecting that. How am I now going to find myself? That's what happened for me. And that's why I don't think that will necessarily be the case for Geminis as much. That is so like sudden, really big shock of like, oh, I wasn't going to change that. Because perhaps Geminis are more like, oh no, they're more quick to realize where they need to change potentially. But that happened. I had to change. I had to find myself again. I had to work out what I liked as an independent person rather than as a wife and a mother, and what I wanted from my business, what I wanted from my hobbies, what I wanted in my house, how I wanted to dress. All of those things changed. And I'm so, so grateful for that because I feel like who I am now, 7 years later, is not like I am a fundamentally different person because I am who I am, but I was able to strip away a lot of this perception of who I thought I should be and now be more of the person I came here to be, if that makes sense. I also changed my name as Uranus crossed my ascendant, the exact degree of my rising sign. I was really called to change my last name because I was keeping my married name of the name of my former husband. I was keeping that surname because I thought it was better for my children if I kept that name. And then I had this sudden realization that that name no longer fit me at all. And I could not go a moment longer being referred to as that person. Now, this was not planned because I'd actually rebranded my business. This happened in this feeling happened to me in 2021. And I'd actually rebranded my business with my former married name in 2020 after I was separated and I was going through a divorce. So I was not planning to change my name. I had thought about it. I had entertained the idea, but the clarity and the conviction came through in June of 2021 when I went, no, I can't be known as this anymore. I have to change my name. And that's where the name Palace comes from, is a name that I chose. And I've actually got another story around that, which I will share. I will share that a bit separately, but that's when I decided this was the name for me going forward. And as many of you know, I have since remarried and to my wonderful, amazing husband. And I haven't taken his name, even though he has a lovely last name. I'm staying the course with the name that I chose for myself because it feels so freaking empowering to have chosen my own name, to have not had a name dictated to me by my father or my husband, to have been able to choose that feels so true to me and who I am and what I want to be known for. And I just want to say to you, if you have ever had that thought as well, because I know a lot of people who are going through separation and divorce at this time of life. And if you were thinking, oh, I wonder if I could choose my own name, you absolutely can. And I probably might not have done this if I hadn't been going through a Uranus transit. But of course, everything is perfectly timed. So that's what happened. So that's something to consider if you're a Gemini rising. Maybe there is something that is going to radically shift for you around your identity. For me, it was a name change. It was obviously related to a divorce. But in that time, I also got remarried. In this 7 years, I've also got remarried. I've had another baby. I have completely pivoted my business into something that feels really authentic to me. And that is this astrology, to include astrology in business, to include astrology in marketing, to dive deeper into this ancient wisdom tradition that I love so much. brings me so much joy, and to tie it with also this real reverence and respect that I have for business and for marketing and for connecting people with services and people and entrepreneurs that are here to serve, that are here to change the world. That has all happened in the past 7 years. So I am so grateful for my Uranus transit through the first house. And I want you to know, if you're a Gemini rising and you're about to go through this, that this is such an exciting time. This transit yields so much potential, and maybe you'll find something really unexpected happens, but at the end of the next 7 years, you'll be like, wow, I really get why I needed to shift that. Maybe it's going to shift things that are really uncomfortable. Maybe it's going to shift things that really need to be shifted, but you would otherwise not change them. Maybe it's going to shift things more permanently that you had started to shift, but you weren't quite ready yet, and Uranus will come through and just solidify that change, or make that, rather than solidify, that's not really the word for Uranus, but it's really making a clean break from what it was before. Now, from a world perspective, Uranus in Gemini is associated with war, and that is because the last time Uranus was in Gemini, we had the Second World War. And this was a big time of upheaval for the whole world, really. And there was a lot of misinformation and miscommunication. Communication was a huge issue. Propaganda was a huge issue during the Second World War. But, it happens with any war. And as we know, the time that we're going into, that we're already in now, is ripe with opportunity for miscommunication, for misleading. And that is something to be wary of with Uranus in Gemini. So it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but no major transit is. But on a personal level, this transit is a powerful revolution, an internal revolution for you to experience. And maybe it's more it's definitely a transit of take up more space. It's definitely a transit of, what do I want? For you personally, if you're a Gemini rising, this is a, what do I want? Maybe you are done looking after everybody else and helping everybody else. And this is a time to work out what you really want going forward, and to break away from any kind of miscommunication that might have been going on in your life, in your business, and find what's really true and authentic to you. Okay, I hope that this has been helpful. If you have any feedback for me, please reach out. If you have any questions for me to cover on the podcast, please reach out. After a little hiatus, I have thought deeply about how I want to show up for this podcast. And I know that I want it to be a space where I share things more intimately with you. And I also want to continue doing some forecasts and some kind of more educational content on certain transits. And I will be releasing an episode for YouTube and for the podcast, which will go through Uranus through all 12 houses. So you'll know, for instance, what does this now mean, for example, for a Aquarius rising? What does Uranus moving through Gemini mean for an Aquarius rising, or a Capricorn rising, or a Cancer rising? Where is it showing up in your chart? I will do a video like that for you. And I will also be recording a few more personal episodes where I talk about how I've experienced transits and how they might show up for you. This is the kind of stuff that I share with my clients and my friends, and I want to share that with you too. And I want you to feel empowered by astrology, not scared of it. Remember that astrology is just reflecting what's already happening. it is not, it's not to be afraid of, because it's really just a mirror, a cosmic mirror. We're just interpreting it, and the way that we interpret it allows us to understand what's happening at a deeper level. And that's why I love it. And yes, we can talk predictive stuff as well. But again, it's not something to be fearful of. It's something to be considered. And if it bothers you, if it makes you anxious, please don't take it on. Please don't approach astrology from the lens of anxiety or fear, because it's really not supposed to do that. It's supposed to help you participate in whatever's going on in your life and in the world in a more informed and embodied way. You know, the transits aren't actually happening to us. The transits are happening and we are experiencing them here on Earth. That's what's going on. So, and everybody's experience of that will feel different. And that's why I asked you, feel into what it might be meaning for you, what it might be showing you. What is it that you need to change with Uranus here? What is it that you've been unwilling to change in the past? That'll be something to look out for when I do my kind of all 12 signs forecast, to see what you might be unwilling to shift and how this transit might help you to shift that. But for all of the Gemini risings out there, don't be afraid. This is going to be such a revelatory time for you. And this is just the beginning. So you're not going to know really what Uranus is bringing to you probably until at least halfway through this transit. So we've got several years. Now, remembering Uranus has just dipped into Gemini today as I'm recording this. Well, it actually went in there last night. It's just dipped in and it's going to dip out again. It's going to dip back into Taurus briefly, and then it's going to come back in for good. And so you're going to see maybe a preview of what might be changing. And then over the next 3 to 4 years, you're going to really see what Uranus is bringing to you. And by the end of the 7 or 8 years, you're going to look back and go, wow, how much has shifted? How much has changed? How much has evolved for me in my personal life, in my personal brand, in my physical body, all of those things. So buckle up. It's going to be fun. Talk soon.